Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Johns Hopkins School of Education Mind, Brain, and Teaching virtual webinar. My name is Sion John. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions here at the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Also presenting today, we have two faculty members, Dr. Marielle Hardman and Dr. Ranjani Johnbull. And before we get started, I would like to cover a few housekeeping topics. First, today's webinar is being recorded. We will be able to share a link with you after the event is complete. Also, please take a second to see if your mic is on mute and video is off right now. Please have your mic on mute and video off at all times during the presentation. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Please type your question in the chat box and we will read and answer your questions. I would like to share the agenda for today's presentation. We will kick off the presentation sharing an overview of the Johns Hopkins School of Education. I'll introduce the two faculty members of the Mind, Brain, and Teaching program. And then Dr. Hardman and Dr. Johnbull will go over details of the program. Lastly, I will wrap it up with admissions requirements and leave the floor open for questions at the end. And to start, we are one of 9 schools at Johns Hopkins University. We began offering college courses for teachers in 1909 and then became our own school in 2007. We offer 27 graduate programs, which includes doctoral, master's, and graduate certificate programs. And we are proud to share that the Johns Hopkins School of Education is consistently ranked one of the top schools in education by the U.S. News and World Report. And for school enrollment, we have approximately 2,364 students, 108 full-time faculty, and a strong network of 23,000 alumni at the Johns Hopkins School of Education. And to introduce our faculty members, first, Dr. Marielle Hardman. Dr. Hardman is a professor and director of the Johns Hopkins Neuroeducation Initiative. She's also the faculty lead for the graduate certificate in Mind, Brain, and Teaching program. She joined faculty in 2006. Her research and publications focus on enhancing education practices through techniques that foster innovation and creative problem solving. And she presents nationally and internationally on topics related to the intersection of research in the learning sciences with effective teaching strategies, including meaningful integration of the arts. Next, Dr. Ranjani Johnbull. Dr. Johnbull is an assistant professor of the Mind, Brain, and Teaching and Doctor of Education program. She joined faculty in 2014 after a postdoctoral fellowship. She received her PhD at the University of Virginia, and her research focus is on teacher efficacy, cultural competence, social context of belief change, neuroeducation professional development, and arts integration methods. And at this time, I will hand the floor over to Dr. Hardman and Dr. Johnbull.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming this afternoon. We hope that we can share with you all that you want to know about our program, and we'll have some time at the end to answer questions that we haven't answered. So I want to welcome you. I think you can see my background. I have to admit, I am not sitting on the beach, although I'd like to be. It was snowing here in Baltimore yesterday, so it would be fun to be there, but no, I'm here with you now, and we're going to talk about the Mind, Brain, and Teaching program, which was one of the first programs, actually the first, to convert into a fully online program in 2010. So we have been active and growing since then. So why would you pursue this Mind, Brain, and Teaching program? Well, there are a lot of reasons that our students have done that, and what they've done with this certificate. We have had that question a lot, and oftentimes, the answers vary, but people become more advanced in their practice. Many people have moved into leadership positions within their field, or policy positions, or they've gotten into educational consulting, or they just love to be lifelong learners. So let's see who they are that are in our program with the next slide. So originally, our program mostly attracted pre-K to 12 educators and then pre-K to 16 educators. Since those earlier days, while educators are a strong cohort in our program, we also have a growing number of school leaders and higher education professionals, people from businesses, organizational leaders who train people in myriad of businesses, organizational leaders. There are people who run their own consulting company or are part of educational consulting companies. We've had parents that are interested in learning how the brain thinks and learns because of their own knowledge. And those who are in face-to-face education more broadly and teaching online. So it's a wide range of professionals who do come into this program. Okay. Let me tell you a little bit about the certificate, and then we'll get into some more logistics in a minute. So it's 15 graduate credits. That's 5 courses, 3 credits each. And the courses are really focused on looking at research in the learning sciences and then how it has the potential to inform education. And so, we do draw in research from diverse fields within human development and learning. And you can see from the third bullet there that that research integrates research from many different fields, as you can see there in the slide. People see the word mind and brain or think neuro and think this has to do with only neuroscience, but while it does, and we do cover neuroscience, brain structure and function and neuroscience research, more broadly, we cover research from the science of learning, which includes the fields that we see there. And I have to say that everything that you read and everything that you do from the first course to the last is about applying what you've learned within your own context in educational practices and policies. So you're not just learning to learn the research, you're learning to think about how that research informs what you do. So it's a fully online format, and you'll learn a little bit more about that in a minute. The time frame for completing the course is typically in 5 semesters. So you take 1 course each semester. That covers 2 academic years plus one summer. But in addition to that, and you'll see a chart in a moment, in addition to that, you can actually decide to take it faster and take 2 courses at once, especially if you have the time. So, more and more of our students are doing that. So in that case, you're finishing in 3 semesters. You're taking 2 courses, fall, 2 spring, and then 1 in the summer. So what are the advantages of the program? Well, first of all, the first course is grounded in what we believe is an instructional framework that's accessible to educators. And many of us over the years have told us that they find the brain-targeted teaching model to really help them think through a practitioner's lens how research informs practice. And through the certificate, you'll come back to that model because it is the framework that we feel connects you right back into practice. And we can see that our students over time have applied this model in many organizational contexts. And so our purpose is that translation so that you are able to, through the research you'll be receiving and through the course assignments, think about how what you're learning, again, connects with what you're doing now or what you'd like to do in the future. So the last slide that I'm going to talk about is, again, the book. You'll see, again, that it does thread throughout the courses. So we're on the next slide now. You can learn about this model through the website braintargetedteaching.org. That book in the center is the textbook for the first course. The first book was the Brain Targeted Teaching Model, written in 2003. Since then, the model has not changed, but the research that supports it has grown exponentially. And we continue to add into the course new research, new publications, new literature reviews that continue to support all of the components of this model. So we're happy to share it with you, and hope that you can get a taste from it just from going on the website. So I'm going to turn now this presentation over to Dr. Jomble, and she'll talk to you about the structure of the curriculum as you see it through the semesters. So Dr. Jomble.
Thanks, Dr. Hardiman. Welcome to you all again. It's so lovely to see so many people on this webinar, and welcome to all of you who watch the recording later. The curriculum structure for this is, we actually have 3 different options now. So our traditional curriculum structure is a sequence of 5 courses for the Mind, Brain, and Teaching Graduate Certificate. It begins with Explorations in Mind, Brain, and Teaching, which provides an overview of the learning sciences, where you learn some information about brain structure and function, some misconceptions about learning and the brain, and a host of instructional strategies that are informed by learning sciences literature through our very own author, Dr. Hardiman's brain targeted teaching model. Then in the second course, you move on to fundamentals of cognitive development. There is a focus on neurotypical development and the psychological theories of human development that covers the lifespan, so birth through adult. Then the next course, in neurobiology of learning difference, there is a focus on the spectrum of neurodiversity and neurodivergence, and the teaching and learning implications of atypical development and different aspects of neurodiversity in that course. In the third course, the cognitive processes of literacy and numeracy, we focus on learning sciences associated with literature of those 2 major areas of learning. This course was developed in response to our initial cohorts and the broad interest from educators in the 2 main areas that are assessed in the K-12 settings, and these sets of skills and cognitive processes are integrated throughout our lives in every context. So it's not just appropriate for K-12 educators, but are really appropriate for all people who in our societies today. That final course is on special topics in brain science, where we focus on emotions, memory, attention, and diversity and equity issues, where we survey a number of different fields that are explored in the earlier courses. In that course, we want you to see some of the other areas of the learning sciences that are also applicable to teaching and learning professions and the K-16 context. So we give you a smattering of a number of courses. In this plan, the option A, you would take 1 course per semester, like Dr. Hardiman said, 1 course at a time over the 2 academic years with the 1 summer in between. So our next slide shows you the plan for our new spring 2022 cohort, and that is an option if you decide that you would like to matriculate in the spring of next year. We are accepting a fall cohort and a spring cohort. So this is the first year that we've done that, and our new spring cohort has this course sequence. So starting Explorations in the spring, Fundamentals of Cognitive Development in the summer, fall Neurobiology of Learning Differences, then spring Cognitive Processes, and then finishing that following summer. So the 2 academic years encompassing 2 summers instead of just 1 summer in between. All right, and then we have this other curriculum structure, plan B, on our next slide. It's the accelerated plan. So we created this in response to the desires of our students in our previous cohorts to take an accelerated path for our certificate. So we now provide this structure. And the benefit of this is that it allows our students to apply for financial aid and federal student loans, which I believe that my colleague Sion will share more about later. And this also, if you're interested in the master's, means that you could take all of your certificate, MBT certificate courses together first, and then your other certificate later, which I'll talk to you about in another slide. All right, the next slide we talked to you about our online curriculum delivery. So there was a question in the chat. Thank you so much for that question. Katie, yes, this is a fully online program. We are switching from Blackboard to the Canvas platform, and all of our courses will be in that starting in the fall. They are all asynchronous because we build our program as an asynchronous program because we accept and serve students from around the globe. This allows for greater equity and access to our program, which is a major priority for the School of Education and our program. So that's why the majority of the work that you do in our courses is asynchronous. We have video lectures, we have interactives, we have discussions, we have projects. There's a variety of different modalities in which you will get to access content and consume content and interact with content for your learning journey with us in the Mind, Brain, and Teaching program. And we also offer synchronous sessions where you get to have live interactions with the course instructors. So usually that's between 1 to 4 synchronous sessions per semester. Those are usually optionals and recorded. And if they're not recorded, usually typically your instructor will offer other opportunities for you to connect with them in a synchronous manner. All right, and the next slide, we're talking about the outcomes of the MBT graduate certificate or degree program. So in general, research, we think of the outcomes of the program being in 2 different buckets, that our students come out being research translators in professional practice and neuroeducators. So in terms of the research translation, we provide you opportunities to gain skills for digesting essential knowledge concerning the nexus between mind, brain, and teaching research, and that you will leave with and that you deeply root yourself in the bodies of literature that are relevant to your practice and your interest. And we provide opportunities for you to produce products in the courses that are immediately informed by research and then put into your practice. In terms of the neuroeducators thing, we think that you come out with a new identity as neuroeducators, and that is part of our program's mission, is to help you think about your transition into a neuroeducator role, and that you'll gain this essential knowledge, and that you'll leave with tools and projects ready for implementation within your professional practice. And what we find is that our students tend to, while they're in the program and after they leave the program, they serve as point people for knowledge from the learning sciences. So that's a little bit about the outcomes of the MBT graduate certificate or degree. On the next slide, you'll find what some of our students say about the MBT program. Here you can read a few quotes from our alumni who've graduated from our certificate. I'll just read the one in the middle, in the pink. It says, "This program has truly been the perfect marriage of my love for science and my love of teaching. I have learned to be more scientifically literate through this program by being given the tools to analyze and understand human learning and development." And I'll let you have a look at those other 2. And then we'll go to the next slide. All right, so I would also encourage you to think about, if you're thinking about the graduate certificate in Mind, Brain, and Teaching, that you think about combining the 2 certificates for the unique option that we have at the Johns Hopkins School of Education to have a Master of Science in Interdisciplinary Studies. So this is really unique. This allows you to choose 2 different certificates to design a more tailored master's degree to your professional goals. And so all of these certificates that you see on the side can be combined with a Mind, Brain, and Teaching certificate. And they all pair very nicely with our certificate in Mind, Brain, and Teaching. And we have had students in every single one of these certificates do a combination to do the master's option. This option is not a common option at most schools of education. Most schools of education, including the one that I graduated from, you would have to take one learning specialization only, a master's degree only in gifted or only in administration and supervision. But here at the Johns Hopkins School of Education, you can specialize in 2 different concentration areas, which I think is a really unique opportunity. So something just to encourage you to think about as you're applying or thinking about applying. All right, and then I think I'm going to hand it back to Sion. Are you on the next? Yeah. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Hardman, and thank you, Dr. John Bull. So now we're going to continue by going over the application requirements. First, applicants must submit a completed application, which can be found on our website. Please keep in mind there is an $80 application fee when you submit your application. We will need all official transcripts, including institutions you may have taken courses but did not receive a degree. You will also need a personal statement. In addition to a personal statement, you will need a scholarly writing sample. And this is a paper that was written for prior coursework. And if you do not have an appropriate sample of scholarly writing to submit, as an alternative, you may instead write a brief essay. Please visit our website for information on the alternative writing sample. You will need an updated resume that highlights any academic, professional, research, or leadership experience. And finally, 2 letters of recommendation. The GRE is not a requirement for this program, and the Mind Brain Teaching Program is currently accepting applications for the fall 2022 start term. There are a few additional steps you need to take in order to complete the application process if you're an international student. You must submit a TOEFL or IELTS score. And if your degree was completed outside of the US, you will need to complete a course-by-course evaluation. Additional information can be found on our website. For the 2021-2022 tuition and fees, the tuition cost is $926 per credit for online courses. In addition, there is a $20 per credit technology fee. And please note, tuition will increase approximately 5% for the next academic school year. Additional fees apply and are charged separately from tuition. We encourage you to view our tuition and fees page on our website for the most up-to-date information. And if you're interested in applying for financial aid for this program, we strongly encourage you to apply for financial aid when you start your application. And we do offer a limited number of partial need-based institutional scholarships each year that range from $500 to $1,500 per semester and are applied to tuition expenses beginning in the fall semester. And to see if you qualify to apply for the endowed scholarship, please visit the grants and scholarship page on the school's website. Thank you for attending the Mind Brain Teaching Program presentation. At this time, we would like to open up the floor for questions.
I'll just read this out for anybody who's listening to the recording. There was a question in the chat about whether any of these courses are considered biology or physiology courses, which is a great question. And my response in the chat is that while you learn information from the biological sciences and learn some physiology content related to brain structure and function, these courses are not considered biology or physiology courses. They are education courses where we integrate the content from biology, physiology, the learning sciences, education research, and we heavily focus on application of that knowledge into your professional practices. So none of those courses are considered discrete courses on like solely on one of the biological or physiological sciences. Dr. Hardiman, did you have an add on to that?
Actually, I think we both responded to this to this question in almost exactly the same way. So I responded to Jennifer as well and said the same thing, that while our readings do include a focus on biological sciences, and you'll see a lot of that in many of the articles. That's not the focus. This is the School of Education, so we choose articles that will help you see how the learning science research informs pedagogy, teaching and learning. We do have those. One of the first assignments you'll take is a quiz on brain structure and function. So, we don't ignore that, because we think knowledge of basic principles of how the brain learns is important, because through your program, you're going to be hearing terms that refer to different brain functions and structures. And it's just important that you understand them and know them. So that's one of the first topics covered when you take the course. But yeah, if courses in just straight up neuroscience or physiology are not in an education program typically.
All right, so the next question, thank you, Dr. Hardman and Dr. John Bull. So the next question from David is the topic of mindfulness discussed much in the program?
Well, that's one of the first topics you'll be covering. It's also, I think that's in the second assignment, where research from mindfulness is there. It's actually one of the earlier studies from one of our, a group of researchers from our Johns Hopkins School of Public Health. But since one of her original studies on that, there have been tons of studies on mindfulness. And you should know that in the first course, as well as subsequent courses, through assignments, students get to choose their topics. And many of our students choose mindfulness as a topic for further investigation. So whether you're doing reviews of articles, which you'll do in the first course, or in the last course, you're doing a review of literature, and then in between the courses, you're also choosing your topic. Again, many students really do explore mindfulness deeply, as if they're choosing that as a topic.
All right, thank you, Dr. Hardman. The next question we have from Kelly Jean is, how is this similar, different from the Mind Brain Teaching Doctorate Program? How is the application process different? Can we start with the certificate program and then switch to the doctorate program?
I'll hand this to Dr. John Bull to answer. No, but she'll tell you why.
Sure. So they are similar programs currently, and we are also, however, it will likely not remain that similar. So what happened when we developed the EDD and Mind Brain and Teaching was we took our core 5 courses in the Mind Brain and Teaching certificate, and we basically put them on steroids and changed the assignments as well. So we added in a ton more research into and content into the EDD courses, which now we have back into the certificate. You actually get access to a lot of the same content. The doctoral course specializations have very different assignments that are tailored to building your skills and knowledge towards your doctoral research projects. So that's the main difference right now. We are in the process of developing new modifications and changes to our courses and new courses in the doctoral program as well. The application process is different in that you have to have a master's degree to apply to the EDD. And you also have to have, you have to have a problem of practice as you come into the doctoral program, and you have to have an executive sponsor that guarantees that they will allow you to do your research or work with that community of practice to complete your doctoral work. Because as an EDD student, you're not paired with paired with a faculty member who will let you, use part of our research to do your doctoral research project. So that's what you would see typically in a PhD program, is that you would be paired with a faculty member who would allow you to basically come along with them on their research line and peel off a little bit of that for your own dissertation or doctoral research project. In the EDD, you have to be able to do your research in your professional practice. So you have to come in with a problem of practice that you've identified, some problem that you see in your professional practice that needs a solution. And you want to understand more deeply about, and you want to do the research to understand that problem more deeply. And you have to have a place, you have to have an executive sponsor that is willing to say they'll support you in getting that research done through your doctoral journey. In addition, it's a pretty competitive program in terms of GPA, and getting in that venue, because there are a lot of applicants. Can you start the certificate program and switch to the doctoral program? I don't know that there are many people that have okay, well, so I'm not totally sure about this question. I'll answer it two ways. There are people who have taken the certificate and then have applied to the EDD and have gone into the EDD program. As it is currently designed, for our previous cohorts, they have not been able to apply into the MBT specialization in the doctoral program. So what they do is they take their knowledge from the MBT certificate and they apply that learning and that knowledge in a different specialization, in the entrepreneurial leadership and education, or in one of the other specializations in the EDD. So they apply to a different specialization, but they take and utilize their knowledge from the certificate in that specialization, because the courses of specialization are so similar right now in terms of content, not the outcomes, not the learning outcomes with the assignments, but we haven't, that's the one restriction right now, which is going to be changing pretty soon. Starting their certificate and then switching to the doctoral program. Dr. Hardiman, I'm not sure of anybody that has tried to do that while in the midst of the certificate program, if that is the question to that.
Right. We actually have a student who is going to stop the certificate to go into the doctorate program. Yeah. So
yeah,
we don't, it's not encouraged to do two programs simultaneously.
Right. Here was the other thing. All of the doctoral application, the EDD application materials all have to be submitted, I think, at the latest by mid-January. For the certificate program, we prioritize people who get their applications in by April, and then we continue to accept applications for our graduate certificate program on a rolling basis until our cohorts are at the max. And they usually fill up pretty fast, so we would encourage you to apply sooner rather than later, just in case we fill up fast for the fall cohorts. But we do have that spring cohort too. That is another option. Yeah, I think that's about it for that response.
Right.
I hope that answered the question.
Thank you, John Bull. Super helpful. The next question, I think you kind of touched upon this actually. When will the EDD program in Mind, Brain, and Teaching be offered again? And how does the certificate program fit into the EDD in Mind, Brain, and Teaching?
Okay. Yeah, I think I did answer that. Right. We our specialization, we offer it every year for the EDD. So it will be offered again in the coming fall in the next round of EDD applications. So if you're interested in applying to the EDD for MBT, you can apply and submit your materials in the fall. And I think you have to have it started in December and finished by mid-January at the latest. Our specialization has been the longest running specialization, I believe, in the EDD. So, and we always get a lot of applicants. Yeah. Thanks
Great.
for that question.
Next question we have is, I'm a teacher in Alaska and I'm wondering how much of the online courses are synchronous or live interaction attendance classes. Alaska is 4 hours behind the East Coast to attend my classes, and teaching may be my biggest hurdle. I think Dr. Hardman, you answered this question in the chat as well.
This time I answered it the right way. I have to apologize to Jennifer because when I answered your question, it turned out I only sent it to our SOE. So that's why it was there already. But Dr. John Bull answered it exactly the way I had, except you all didn't see it. Now you see the question. So thank you, Sion, for showing me that I had the wrong everyone up, not just you. So yes, it is totally asynchronous. We do hold synchronous sessions though. And, it just depends on the content and the instructor. Our students like coming together in synchronous way and meeting each other. That said, we have students from Saudi Arabia and China and California and Alaska. And so it's really, we don't require your attendance at synchronous sessions. They're largely recorded and posted, but it's not required. I have to say, though, that some students really like to have interaction with the instructor. And so most of us are very open about having individual meetings with you if you need that. In our program. And I certainly, I think all of us are very open to meeting the needs of our students that way. But the program itself is asynchronous.
Thank you, Dr. Hardman. Next question I received as a private message. What can I expect from the online classes? Do the online classes include only reading and writing assignments, or is there also an interaction with the instructor?
Yeah, absolutely. We could flip back to that slide in the presentation if you want. Let's see.
There it is. Yep.
You got
it.
That's
it.
Actually, if you want to do slide 14, you got it. Oh, yeah, great. Thank you. Yeah, so in our Canvas platform, it is not only writing and reading. There is some writing and reading. There are video lectures. There are interactive tools where it's not just you sitting and consuming a video. It's something through, like we use some other software like Articulate and some other new softwares to provide some interactive modules for you to utilize. And we also have both written discussions and we have video discussions. And it's not just written assignments or tests. You have some projects that you're to do in the courses. And like we said, we do have synchronous sessions where you get to interact with the instructor if you'd like to. Dr. Hardiman, do you want to add on?
Yeah, no, I think you got the highlights of it. One thing I want to underscore is how rich the discussions among students are. It's really lovely. We typically have discussion prompts in maybe not every session, but most sessions do have a prompt for discussion, and it's based on your readings or the video lectures, the topic of that session. And then students are asked after an initial prompt to respond to two classmates during that session. So it really encourages class interaction. And I've taught face-to-face and online, and I have to say that the way this is structured, students interact more with each other actually online because of that discussion and the way it's structured than when they're sitting in a face-to-face class and typically not talking to each other. So it is not what you think in terms of an online program that is just reading and responding and writing with assignments. Hope that helps.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, well, it looks like there are no more questions, and I'm actually going to flip page right here to this slide. We have some important contact information for anything admissions related about your application. Feel free to contact the Office of Admissions. Here is our email address and our phone number. Any program related questions, please reach out to Camila Mika Sims, the Senior Academic Program Coordinator. And then here on the slide, you will see Dr. Hardiman and Dr. John Bull's email address. Thank you both, Dr. John Bull and Dr. Hardman, for a wonderful presentation and for your time today. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. And thank you again for your interest in the Johns Hopkins School of Education.